Hi, this is going to be a story about using a Ouija board. There are people who think the Ouija board is nothing but a gate to hell and fiends and the dark underworld. And then there are other people who have used the Ouija board and they have come in with somebody like Seth, S-E-T-H, whose teachings have changed the world. But back in 1983, I lived in Louisiana with my significant other, Jim. And Jim really didn't like watching TV. And so I said, why don't we try playing with the Ouija board? And he liked that idea. And so every evening we got on the Ouija board. And it wasn't long before someone called Mimi, M-I-M-I, showed up. She claimed she was Jim's wife in an incarnation they had in Texas, where he made wagon wheels, and I guess they had part of the wagon wheel expeditions going west. She claimed that she had died of a cat bite, which I suppose could happen. In any event, Mimi was extremely entertaining, and it was fun spending the evening talking to her. And then one day, Jim went to work and his co-worker, Doc, didn't show up. And Jim went to check on him, found he had died in his bed. And Jim was really, really upset. And of course, he called the sheriff. Doc's body was collected. It went for an autopsy. And when Jim came home that day, he was so upset. I said, let's talk to Mimi and find out what happened. So Jim and I got on the Ouija board, and Mimi showed up immediately, and she said, yes, I'm here, and I have Doc with me. And so I said, Mimi, what did Doc die of? And she said it was his heart. And I said, what time did this happen? And she gave me like 2:13, a very precise time, 2:13 in the morning. And apparently Doc was feeling just fine, no longer being in the physical. He said he hadn't felt that good in many, many years, and he wanted Jim to stop worrying about him. So around that time, I had asked Mimi the name of a doctor that Doc might have had, because I wanted to kind of establish that he had a heart problem and maybe help the coroner out with the information. So she gave me the name Favier, and I wrote it down. She spelled it out for me. And then we got a call from the place that had Doc's body, and they wanted to know if we had some clothes we could bring down for him. He needed a jacket and a tie and I think a shirt and maybe even the pants. So Jim and I got that together and we went down to the funeral home, and it was in an old building down in New Orleans. We were living right outside New Orleans at the time. And the body was down in the basement of this facility. It may at one time have housed carriages or horses, stables. It was a very large basement, but it had a little room set aside that was glassed in, and that's where Doc's body was. So we went there, and as I was in the room and Doc's body was there next to me on a gurney covered with a sheet, I looked around at the walls of this garage, kind of lower level, and there, embedded in the wall in concrete, was like this plaque thing, and it had the name Favier on it, and it sent shivers up and down my spine. It was as though when I had asked Mimi for the name, the first thing that she saw was that particular name, and that's what she reported to me. I never did get around to asking her about the mix-up in the names. I had wanted a doctor's name certified. The other thing was the autopsy revealed that Doc had died of asphyxiation from a bad heater in the bathroom. And the next time we talked to Mimi, I asked her, I said, why did you say it's the heart? And she said, basically, if you're in the body sleeping and there's not enough oxygen anymore, the heart will stop, and to the person having the experience, it will feel like the heart rather than oxygen deprivation. So that was our experience with Mimi. We didn't get around to try to certify death records or anything like that. I mean, we were already in Louisiana, it wouldn't have been that difficult, but we didn't do it. But it was very entertaining, and no evil spirits came through and carried anybody off. But that was us, and we had a good time with it. So until next session, I hope you all are doing okay this second week of January 2025. Bye.